the most merciful, and we send salutations and peace on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, through which every good has come down to us. By the grace and mercy of Allah, we find ourselves in the middle ashra of Ramadan, and there are two topics I wanted to speak about, both of which are actually happening in this room right now, mashallah. The first one actually is loving for the sake of Allah. Loving someone for Allah's pleasure. This is a great deed, for which many rewards have been said. Okay? What does it mean? You do not hold any ulterior motive to love this person. You love them because they're more religious and more pious. They possess knowledge that you don't have. Or they're busy in the service of the deen. Or because loving them is commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or loving has been commanded like your parents. This is called hubb fillah in a hadith. One hadith states that the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah shall ask on the day of judgment, where are those that love each other for the sake of Allah? Today I shall shade them on a day where there is no shade except my shade. This is mentioned in Al-Muslim. So, in another hadith, it is narrated that on the day of judgment, those who had mutual love for the sake of Allah shall be all pulpits of light. And people will say on the day of judgment, who are these people that are on pulpits of light? They're literally sitting on top of light pillars. This is mentioned in Tirmidhi. And it will be the same people. Abu Idris al-Khalwani, one of the tabi'een, he said, he once visited Mu'adh bin Jabal, radiallahu anhu, in the Jamia Mosque of Damascus. And he said, by Allah, I love you for the sake of Allah. Mu'adh, radiallahu anhu, sahabi, he grabbed him and he said, you swear that you love me for the sake of Allah. He said, yes, I love you for the sake of Allah. Then he pulled him by his shawl towards himself. And he said, glad tidings to you. I heard the Prophet ﷺ say that Allah said, my love is assured for those who love each other for my sake. Who sit with each other for my sake. Who sit on the first step for my sake. Who come to Taraweeh for my sake. Who come 10 minutes early for my sake. This is mentioned in Malik's Muwatta. Subhanallah. You know, loving Allah's righteous servants is actually due to which love? The love that you have for Allah. That's why you love that person. As a result of this, Allah includes this lover among His beloved people. And it is also stated that in the hadith that the person came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked, when is the final hour? Mat as-sa'a? What have you prepared for the final hour? Never mind when the final hour is. Even if I was to tell you when the final hour is, what are you going to do about it? What have you prepared for this final hour? You tell me that first. Okay, let's say I told you it's going to happen on the 30th of April 2025 at 2:15 a.m. Right? I told you that. Then, what are you going to do? What's your preparation for the final hour? So to this, subhanAllah, the Sahabi replied that I have prepared for it nothing except the love of Allah and His Messenger. The Prophet ﷺ said, you shall be on that day with whom you love. Subhanallah. Anas radiallahu anh narrates that the narrator of the hadith says that we have never been pleased with any hadith of the Prophet ﷺ except this one. I love the Prophet ﷺ. Abu Bakr and Umar, I love them only because we love the Prophet ﷺ. Because of my love for these three people, I hope that when I wake up on the day of judgment, I'll be like them. Even though my actions aren't even comparable to their actions. You know, there's many ahadiths which show this again and again. If you love someone for the sake of Allah, it's a great virtue. So this great action, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants him the ability to do good deeds in this life. And will also bless him with the company of the righteous in the hereafter. That's an extra reward that you get. So what you should do, my dear brothers and sisters, is love righteous people. Ulama, the muttaqeen, the muhsineen, the people that are on the forefront of doing things for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أُحِبُّ الصَّالِحِينَ وَلَسْتُ مِنْهُمْ لَعَلَّ اللَّهَ يَرْزُقُنِي صَلَاحًا. These are Arabic poetry words. I love righteous people, but I'm not one of them. Perhaps Allah will grant me true righteousness, just because I love them. These are some words of the Arabic poets. A hadith also states that when a person loves his brother, he should inform him that you love him. Don't just keep it in your head. Abu Dawud reported this. Anas radiallahu anhu narrates that there was once a person sitting with the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ sitting here. Another person passed by. The seated person said to the Prophet ﷺ, I love this man. The Prophet ﷺ said, have you told him? The man said, no, I've never told him. The Prophet ﷺ said, go tell him. The man then went to him and said, I love you for the sake of Allah. He said, the one whom you loved me will love you back. Meaning Allah will love you back for this love. So this is narrated in Abu Dawud. I want you to think about this hadith, my dear brothers and sisters. Look at the beauty of this religion of Islam. It even tells you to not keep your love withheld. Don't even keep your love that you have for your, let alone, this is a random person that you know just because they visit the masjid and they're Muslim, you love them for the sake of Allah. Now imagine your own children. One of the times, one of the people in one of the masajid that I was teaching in, subhanAllah, he said with great pride, I've never told my children that I love them. I have never done that. As if it's a good thing. And I narrated to him this hadith, and all of a sudden he became quiet. I said, if this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's messenger told someone to say about someone that it was just a Muslim, what do you think will happen to your own son or your own daughter that you don't tell them that I love you? What is the last time a father or a mother told their son or their daughter that my son, my daughter, everything aside, your school aside, your homework aside, everything else aside, your Quran aside, I love you for the sake of Allah. There is no one that I love more than the love that I have for you, my son, my daughter. We need to say this. And if you want a homework task, I know you guys love homework, do this when you get home. Do this for your wife, your children, your elders, anyone else that you can call up, anyone that you see in the masjid, even these huffaz, the poor guys that are reciting so much Quran. Go up to them, kiss them on the forehead and say, I love you for the sake of Allah. This is what Islam tells you to do. Now imagine in this kind of religion, that is telling you even to not withhold the love that you have within your hearts and tell the other person. Is it possible for a person to murder thousands of people? Crash planes into whole buildings? It just doesn't make sense. When the Prophet ﷺ is sitting next to this man and giving him this advice. So, my dear brothers, what I want you to take out of this is love, hubb, is actually a very Islamic thing. But the modern concept of love is wrong. That modern concept of love that you see in movies and videos and games, this is not real love. It's a one-sided love affair, which is actually craziness. It's actually got some craziness in it. But the true definition of love starts with your love for who? Do you know who you love the most? If you're being honest. One of my teachers told me this and I was shocked. I thought the answer would be, you love Allah the most. But that's not true. He said, don't lie. You love who the most? Yourself. Absolutely. The love that is the purest is the love that you have for yourself. You love yourself the most. Now, Islam tells you, now this is your base. You love yourself the most. The one that you would prefer the most when you get $1 million briefcase, the first person that you will think about is going to be who? Yourself. You're going to think, okay, I've got this debt to pay, I've got this bank account could need some help, I've got this business, I've got this property, all of them could use $50,000 each, and then you start thinking about other people. That's the love that you have for yourself. Islam tells you, come with me on a journey. Come with me on a journey. I want you to start replacing this love that you have for yourself and love Allah and love Rasulullah and the people of Allah so much that you don't even love yourself that much. Now you tell me, is this an easy task or a very hard task? This is very difficult, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. This is extremely difficult. Once, and this I'll finish with, Umar bin al-Khattab radiallahu anh said to the Prophet ﷺ. Now remember, who's speaking? Who's he speaking to? The Prophet ﷺ, the greatest prophet, man, human being that ever lived. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to be his best servant. Who's talking? The one who's talking is a Sahabi that the Prophet ﷺ himself says, and remember everything that he says from his words are wahi, revelation. He says about Umar bin al-Khattab that if there was a prophet after me, it would have been this man, Umar. Okay, so now he's speaking. He's saying, O Prophet of Allah, I love everyone, you, Allah, everyone, more except my own self. I love myself a little bit more. So the Prophet ﷺ said, your iman is not going to be complete until you go back, you do whatever work you need to do on yourself, and you come back to me and you say to me that I love Allah and the Prophet ﷺ more than I love myself. And then we wonder, how is it possible that one after the other sacrificed themselves in the Battle of Hunayn? 3 army leaders, one after the other holding the flag, and one goes down, the second one goes down, the third one goes down, and people are still rushing to get the flag. How is this possible? You know, it's nice to hear it in a book or a novel or a story, but in reality, this is very hard to see. I've yet to meet people like this, that have hearts of gold, that are willing to sacrifice everything and anything. We struggle to sacrifice $10, $1,000. If a brother comes to you and asks you for $10,000 to build a masjid, you're going to think twice. I don't care who you are. If he asks you for $100,000, $200,000, you have to be absolutely crazy to think that you are not going to think about your accounts, your business, your job, your standing, your debts. You're going to think about all these things. And this is what real love of Allah and real love of the Prophet ﷺ will make you happen. When you become like this, you'll become like the Sahaba. That your love first goes to Allah, then it goes to the Prophet ﷺ. And this explains, the final thing I want to leave you with is that this explains that when enemy leaders would come to the Sahaba and they would see how the Sahaba were with the Prophet ﷺ, they would say that no, this man is a real leader. Why would they say that? He would see the Sahaba rushing to get the wudu that would drip from the Prophet ﷺ's Mubarak body to catch it so that they can put it on themselves. Why? How is it possible to love someone more than you love your own self? And this is the rhetorical question that I leave you with, that the path of Islam will make you into a person that loves more than yourself Allah and His Rasul and everything connected to it. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.